The story begins by immersing us in the world of an extraordinary yet enigmatic figure, a scientist, mathematician, or perhaps a cryptographer, whose intellect borders on genius, but whose demeanor suggests something darker lurking beneath. We meet them in a dimly lit study, surrounded by stacks of papers, chalkboards covered in indecipherable equations, or case files strewn across a desk. The air is thick with the weight of obsession. They have just done the impossible, solved a decades-old mystery that stumped experts for generations. Maybe it's a proof that redefines mathematics, a breakthrough in a cold case that rewrites history, or the decryption of a lost manuscript rumored to hold dangerous secrets. The outside world would celebrate this as a triumph, but the protagonist does not. Instead of relief, their face is drawn, their hands unsteady. There's a moment, just a flicker, where they glance over their shoulder, as if expecting someone. A colleague or assistant might interrupt, offering congratulations, but the protagonist responds with distracted murmurs or an abrupt change of subject. They hastily gather their notes, locking some away, shredding others. When pressed, they offer a vague warning. This wasn't just a puzzle, it was a warning. Or perhaps, I wasn't the first to try this. The scene lingers on small, unsettling details. A shadow passing by the window. A missed call from an unknown number. A newspaper clipping about another researcher who died under mysterious circumstances. The protagonist's paranoia isn't presented as madness, but as something more unnerving. The slow realization that they've stumbled into a game far bigger than they understood. By the end of the introduction, the audience knows two things with certainty. This person is brilliant enough to uncover truths others couldn't, and they may have just sealed their own fate by doing so. The tone is less celebratory than foreboding, a quiet storm brewing behind the triumph. The stage is set not for applause, but for disappearance. The air in the lecture hall is electric, a packed room of scholars, journalists, and skeptics, all drawn by whispers of an impossible discovery. The protagonist steps onto the stage, their presence commanding yet uneasy. The weight of their revelation hangs in the silence before they speak. They unveil their findings with precision, equations scrawled across a projector, long-lost documents decrypted, a theory that stitches together fragments of a mystery once thought unsolvable. The audience reacts in waves, first stunned silence, then murmurs of disbelief, then erupting into applause. A reporter in the front row snaps photos, their flash catching the protagonist's flinch. A colleague rushes to shake their hand, but the grip is limp, distracted. Questions come like gunfire. How did you see what no one else could? What does this mean for the field? The protagonist answers mechanically, their voice steady, but their eyes scanning the room, not for admiration, but for something else. A face in the crowd? A threat? At one point, they pause mid-sentence, staring at a figure in the back who slips out the door. Was that person even really there? When a young researcher asks, "What's next for you?" the protagonist hesitates. A shadow of something crosses their face. Fear, regret, resolve. Their reply is cryptic. That depends on who's listening. The room laughs, assuming it's a joke, but the protagonist doesn't smile. After the presentation, well-wishers swarm, but they retreat into the crowd, declining interviews, avoiding eye contact. A journalist lingers, sensing something off. "You don't seem happy," they press. The protagonist's response is a whisper, almost to themselves. Some doors shouldn't be opened. Then they're gone, vanishing into the corridor's dim light, leaving behind a room buzzing with excitement, and the first faint tremor of unease. The breakthrough is real. The celebration is real. But so is the unshakable sense that something has just gone terribly wrong. The days following the breakthrough should have been triumphant. Interviews, accolades, the slow march toward recognition. But instead, the protagonist retreats. Their office, once a temple of ordered chaos, becomes a fortress. Notebooks disappear into locked drawers. Computer files are wiped clean, not with the methodical care of someone covering their tracks, but with something closer to panic. A colleague stops by unannounced and finds them mid-action, papers half shredded, a lighter hovering over the corner of a page before they freeze, caught. Just tidying up, they mutter, but their eyes dart to the door as if expecting an intruder. Sleep becomes a rumor. They move through the world like a ghost, jumpy at sudden noises, lingering too long in reflections as if searching for something behind their own image. At a celebratory dinner, they excuse themselves abruptly when a stranger at the bar asks too many questions. Just an admirer, they insist later, but their hands won't stop tapping the table. Then come the calls, late-night rings from blocked numbers, dead air on the line, or worse, breathing, a wrong number whisper of, "You shouldn't have done that." The protagonist stops answering their phone. They start leaving false trails, a train ticket purchased but unused, a hotel reservation under a fake name. When pressed, they offer weak smiles and excuses, just being careful. But the careful don't burn their work. The careful don't murmur to empty rooms, "I know you're watching." The final straw is the note. A scrap of paper tucked under their door, found one bleary dawn, a string of numbers, maybe coordinates, or a countdown, or nothing at all, maybe just a scrap. But whatever it is, it sends them spiraling. That's when they start looking over their shoulder in earnest. That's when they vanish. The morning it happens is unremarkable. A pale dawn, the quiet hum of a city not yet awake. The protagonist steps out of their apartment, locking the door behind them with deliberate care. They leave nothing unusual behind. A half-drunk cup of coffee still steaming on the counter, a jacket slung over the chair, the faint glow of a computer screensaver flickering in the dim room. A life paused mid-breath. They don't take a suitcase. Don't cancel appointments. Don't tell a soul. Security cameras catch glimpses. A figure in a train station, head down, hands in pockets. A blur in the back seat of a taxi, giving an address they never arrive at. A shadow slipping into a crowd and never emerging. By evening, concern flickers. A missed meeting, unanswered calls. The emails pile up. When a worried colleague checks their apartment, the door is unlocked. The coffee has gone cold. The computer is on, a single document open, a half-finished sentence, the cursor blinking like a pulse. No signs of struggle, no note, no explanation, just absence where a person should be. The police are called, of course, reports filed, questions asked, but the trail dissolves like smoke. The taxi driver doesn't remember the fare. The train station footage cuts out at the platform's edge. The last confirmed sighting is a convenience store purchase, a bottled water, a pack of gum, handing over cash with steady fingers. Then, nothing. Rumors bloom in the silence, a nervous breakdown, a secret rendezvous, a calculated escape. But those who knew them best, who saw the way their hands shook in those final days, who heard the unspoken fear in their voice, they know the truth. The protagonists didn't just vanish, they were erased. The investigation had stalled, police reports gathering dust, news cycles moving on, until someone thought to look closer. It was the assistant who found it, or the estranged colleague, or maybe the protagonist's own family, sorting through boxes of abandoned belongings. At first, it seemed like nothing, a scribble in the margin of a notebook, a string of numbers hastily jotted on the back of a receipt, a bookmark left in an old library book with an underlined passage that didn't belong. Something so small it had been overlooked for days, weeks. But then the pattern emerged. The numbers matched coordinates, not to a random location, but to a remote research facility the protagonist had once visited, or maybe a quiet bench in a city park where they used to eat lunch alone. The underlined book passage referenced an obscure myth about knowledge too dangerous to possess. The bookmark itself had a tiny, almost invisible symbol drawn in the corner, the same one that appeared in their last emails, tucked into the signature like a whisper. And then there were the files. Deleted, but not completely. Recovered fragments revealed a folder buried deep in their computer, encrypted and labeled something innocuous. Tax documents, or recipe ideas. Inside, a single image. A grainy surveillance photo of a man in a crowd, circled in red. A figure who appeared in the background of the protagonist's last public lecture. A face no one recognized. The hidden clue wasn't an answer. It was a trail, and it led somewhere dark. The truth came not in a dramatic confession, but in the quiet horror of connecting the dots. It was the recovered files that told the story, fragments of encrypted emails, a voice memo recorded in haste, the protagonist's own trembling words caught between static. They knew I'd find it. That's why they let me. Then, the photograph, a surveillance still, time-stamped the night before the disappearance. The protagonist stands in a dim parking lot, face half-lit by a flickering street lamp. Opposite them, a figure, the same stranger from the lecture hall, the same face circled in the hidden files. Their hand is extended, offering something small and metallic. A flash drive? A key? The last email, unsent but auto-saved, is the most damning. If you're reading this, I was right. It wasn't a theory. It wasn't a coincidence. They've done this before. Look at redacted. Look at the dates. The names are different, but the math is the same. They're not hiding it anymore. They're bragging. Attached. A spreadsheet. Columns of names, locations, dates stretching back decades. Every entry corresponds to a researcher, an inventor, a historian, each one on the verge of a breakthrough before they quit abruptly, or retired overnight, or vanished. Time passes. The case grows cold. The protagonist's name fades from headlines, reduced to a footnote in academic journals, or the subject of late-night conspiracy forums. Their discovery, once heralded as revolutionary, is quietly discredited, buried under bureaucratic red tape, or deemed inconclusive by faceless review boards. The coordinates from the hidden clue lead to an empty warehouse, long abandoned. The encrypted files corrupt before they can be fully decoded. Those who keep searching hit walls. Whistleblowers recant their statements. Journalists pursuing the story find their sources drying up. The stranger from the surveillance photos, a blur, a ghost, no match in any database. Yet in certain circles, the whispers persist. A grad student stumbles upon an anomaly in decades-old research, a pattern that echoes the protagonist's work. A retired detective keeps a box of files under their bed, labeled in Sharpie, unfinished. In quiet moments, their colleagues catch themselves glancing over their shoulders, wondering if they've noticed something they shouldn't have. The truth is out there, but it's not for the taking. The story ends where it began, with a mystery. Only this time, no one steps forward to solve it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for more. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one. Bye for now.